Yeah, Genesis 35, and let's read together verses 1 through 4. This will be our second week on this, and I think we'll probably wrap it up this morning, verses 1 through 4. There's just so much in this. There's so many words that are loaded with meaning. We're going to review those, and then we're going to have some little bit different format this morning. We're going to do some table talk time, because I've come up with 4 questions that I'm really interested in, and I thought it'd be good to get some input from you guys. So would somebody read Genesis 35 verses 1 through 4?
Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Then come, let us go to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem.
All right, good. So in this sequence, I want to put this in context. Jacob, it's coming off chapter 34, and I see Jacob as primarily silent. I see the boys, his sons, doing the action, doing the talking, and the only quote of Jacob is in verse 30, where he says, "Look what you've done," and complaining about how this slaughter in chapter 34 would affect his reputation in the area, which is very odd, given of what Jacob has been through, primarily in chapter 33 of this, what I'm calling a transformational experience, this wrestling with God. So in this text here, there's 4 movements. One is God speaks to Jacob, verse 1. Jacob then calls his tribe. I'm calling it the tribe because it's family and other people that are involved. So it's not just his family, so the tribe. And then that's verses 2 and 3. And verses 4 is the response of the tribe to Jacob, and then actions by Jacob, what he did. So that's where we're kind of focusing in on. By way of review, I threw out this idea last time of this whole idea of change, and that change here is based on a promise. Think of it as concentric circles. The core of this whole story is God calling a people to a place to be their God, and they will be his people. And it's part of the Abrahamic blessing that is now 3rd generation to Jacob. So there's this promise. And now Jacob is speaking out to his tribe, and he's saying, now let's assume this promise. Let's walk into this promise, and you do that by, first of all, putting off your foreign gods, which raises a whole bunch of interesting questions. Purify yourself and change your clothes. I find that really, really interesting. We're going to look at that. So the first word that is, and Dick actually brought these questions up. I don't know if he used put off, but purify and change, and so I did a little research. Put off means put off, and it means turn off is what. And so there it is. It's the idea of stop doing. And where my head was going this last week is, in this process of change and new direction and vision and a new course in life, the first thing we have to do is stop doing what we're doing. It seems so obvious, but so true. If I want to lose 10 pounds by June 19th or June 20th, our first ride up Heart Attack Hill in Christ in the Rockies, I've got to stop eating coffee cake. It's so clear. but I can't. I just find it hard to do that. So we have to stop before we can start anything new. So there's number one. Number two is that purify yourselves, and it means to clean up. I don't think it's tied to the New Testament word of set apart. But the idea is it's actually cleansing, and it means to be bright. And so I got the idea here of a pot, and it means to clean the skillet to where it's shiny bright. And because there's foreign materials within there that have to be removed, that's hindering the brightness. Those things have to be removed. So stop doing an internal cleansing, and then the last thing is the third word is to change. Change your clothes, change your garments. And I was thinking this week of how our garments reflect what's going on. Our garments are a reflection, are a projection of what we are. Or I would think in most cases, at least a projection of what we're trying to portray. Two contrasting images here change. This is a Gothic image. It's a Gothic lifestyle, and there's a whole subculture with this. Oh, he's goth, or she's goth. Well, this is Gothic dress, and this woman is portraying this and projecting this image out. And so when we see her walking down the street, we say she's goth. And so contrasted to that is someone from an Amish culture. If you go to around Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and see the area, which is beautiful country, see a lot of these people dressed like this in this particular area. But they too are projecting an image of who they are and who they're representing and what they represent by their dress. And so true. It's important. It's important. I mean, the whole industry of tattooing in this last 10 years, it's in my opinion really about people trying to express something by marking their bodies of who they are as an individual. It's way more than just art. There's something being expressed there.
Can I just add one little thing?
Yeah.
About the Amish, my son-in-law and my daughter are very involved with the Amish right now, about clothes and appearance. Their favorite thing is when English, the outsiders, ask them, "Why are you wearing suspenders?" And they look at each other and they say,
Hold my pants.
"Hold the pants." That's their favorite.
Yeah, that's a great
They get
answer.
that question all the time.
It's very practical. Very practical.
Hold my pants up.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
don't really laugh, but they're laughing like crazy inside. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I really get that. So yes.
Another little note is asking people, are you Christian? Yeah. How come you're tattooing yourself all up? The Bible explicitly speaks against tattooing. It's found in Leviticus. You can look it up. Challenge. You have to challenge those around us. Christians, you just sit idling, letting things happen.
Yeah. Well.
No question.
Yeah. So then I mean that okay, but then we got to ask ourselves. We see here the Bible also talks about gluttony, and here I am eating. Not one dessert, but two or three. So we all got our stuff here.
The same passage in Leviticus talk about don't cut your forelocks and all these other things. I mean, Carl's right, but pretty soon we get into that world of we want to walk in that world.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions with all that, but what I want to express with this is that I think it's such an interesting phrase by Jacob saying, change your garments. Because, and what they were wearing, I don't know. but what they were wearing was projecting something that Jacob was now asking them, directing them to move out of. It was something that if you see that person from a distance, oh, they're this way, they're Gothic, or they're Amish, just by how they're dressed. Jacob is now saying, no, let's get rid of those clothes and let's dress differently. Now, what differently was, I don't know. But to project a new image, our outward shell to project a new image is the idea. So I don't, that's where I'm going to leave it. I just wanted to just give some, oh, no, I can't. Verse 4, I got to go to verse 4. So what they did, that's in verse 3 and 2 and 3. Verse 4 is the response, which I also think is interesting. The people, his tribe, brought to him, they gave to Jacob, they gave to Jacob their foreign gods and their rings and all of their stuff. They brought their stuff, bags of stuff. And Jacob, in turn, took that stuff, says he hid it under the tree in Shechem. There's the tree. He buried it, he buried it. He buried it in the earth, buried this stuff. And that's what he did. Those are the two actions. They brought to him, and he buried. So we're going to look at it. Here's the summary. God speaks to Jacob, verse 1. Jacob speaks to the tribe in verse 2 and 3. And the people respond, and Jacob respond in verse 4. Now I've got 4 questions, and we're going to divide up here. Maybe get Steve and Everett to come over here and join you guys. So your question is this. This is group 1. I'd like you to look at this question, and then we're gonna circle up here about 5 minutes before, maybe I'll give you 10 minutes. Each group. Group 1, right over here. Jacob assumes his leadership role here in chapter 35. Remember, he's been silent. He's now taking the leadership role. What factors do you think prompted him to re-engage? Why here? Why now? Why do we see him coming out of silence here in chapter 35? So can you two join over here? And yes?
I could offer them a hint.
No, you got your own question. Okay. No, is this if it's a joke, I don't want to give away any answers. Okay, group 2, this group right here. You want 5 guys. And Jacob evidently allowed for other gods within his leadership model. I think this is so fascinating. Here's a guy that has wrestled with God Almighty, has had a powerful experience, spiritual experience, and obviously there are other frames of reference, Carl, tattooed people within the mix. And Jacob has allowed this to happen. He's allowed this, which I think is really fascinating. Why do you think, what do you think about this? What do you guys think about this idea of Jacob allowing tattooed people in this group? Okay, that's your question. Okay, and then number 3 is you guys clear in the back. And Carl, if you could circle. Now maybe, Carl, could you join these guys just to even it out a little bit? Would you be willing to do that? No, join right here. So you guys in the back, you 4, your question is, why do you think Jacob's tribe brought their gods to him even though he had not given that directive? He just said, put them off, put them away. But they brought their gods to him. What does this action suggest? So what are your thoughts on that? And then number 4 is you guys right here, group 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Explain, group 4, why you think Jacob did what he did with the stuff. He buried the stuff. And think about what alternatives could there have been. Why did he do what he did with the stuff? that his tribe brought to him. So I'll give you guys about 7 minutes, and then at 20 after we'll get together, and really want to hear what you all have to say. So.
We have the wisdom of the ages here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What strikes me is one of the reasons he took you to Scott's Point. And then they reminded him that he's got to go back to where he had first saw the visions.
He said, why'd you stop here? How do you burn metal?
Can you see it okay?
We don't know if you got it all that word. I said, let's go. And I guess he doesn't want to go this way. So he told me to go with him. But what authority does he have? He doesn't just been down there. Why not?
But anyway, that's just a lot.
Steelers
Orientation, you know, I mean, in terms of their cultural orientation, it was similar to tribal, and I think they were stable as they
When he said, God said to him, go back to where you fled from your brother Esau, said, you a lot of things. And he was
Well, he's already been told to go home.
right, but I mean, to be reminded by the Lord of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be a logical.
You know, I keep going back.
That's probably why they put them there.
At this point.
You keep saying over 80, right?
I'm taking these closest to
This is where they should go.
It could be.
at this point in time. Well, I have this little piece of paper here. He was 84 when he got married.
Oh, oh.
No, they just had
But yeah,
they didn't have cholesterol either, so it's been true. So,
Your point was a good one, why was it about the silence?
yeah.
Well, the islands were very.
Having my father-in-law is the rehabilitated care center since his fall on St. Patty's Day. In the hospital, and I've seen a lot of people in wheelchairs and walking slowly.
Did they see him during?
that's the other question.
We're sitting in a wheelchair and watching TV. And I walked down and somebody said, lunch on the calories. Taking this liquid, cooled them off. But walking by this old lady, she said, somebody help me. So it's the age, I think we lose our inhibitions. We just speak up whatever prompts us at the time. And he was prompted by God. He said, get up and go. And I think he still was a little bit fearful of Esau. Because Esau did say, when my dad died, he was not killing him. With chapter 1.
Sounds like a good decision.
So he may still be a little bit afraid and doesn't want to go along. I don't know if his views have somehow changed.
I think again,
There was transformation, I'm sure. We know that Jacob was a bit of a control freak.
Trying to remember now.
Sort of like after Christ, wrestling with the angels, I recall,
He's very
sort of like he sort of
large, tall, and majestic.
I mean, he just micromanaging his family.
So you can say like
Got back as a mark to his kids going out
in the old days.
and
Nobody said anything about all
He
this.
said the tree there.
it was still the circle. They didn't have any control. He said, not in trouble. We're getting around. Nobody wants us here. You're not really supposed to run this. Take something on the road or something.
Oh, you know, mine is changing.
you know, like Mike says, taking control is one of our defaults. But on the other hand, he said, God said to him, go to Bethel. He didn't say who to take with you. He didn't say get rid of the Christ. Jacob's in part.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's a wake up, Jacob. Wake up, you're sleeping, you're moving. You know, Jacob said, okay, you're right, I gotta take care of this. Telling you to go to the gods. That's not our question. But why did that have to do with grace? We can see it from our side of the there isn't even a command to worship God. God just speaks to people. Occasionally they set up an altar and give a sacrifice. It kind of evolves. You should worship me in the only. That was
Terrible. There may be.
When your flesh moves
I think probably
during the course of all of this journey,
another step. One dude in charge of God says make an altar. Jacob must have figured, well, you shouldn't have any other altars around. You gotta have one.
purchase of this picked up some other folks that were traveling with him now, out of his blood lineage, and they brought these things of him.
Elohim.
Why is the
Well, that's what he called the altar that you built in Shechem. Later. That was before. Okay, that was before. This is the house of God.
early on? Why did they allow that stuff?
28, chapter 28.
No, that's actually
When you find out
They said this is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. That's how he said Bethel.
Then he gets to the end, just the very end of 33, he says, he set up an altar and called it Israel, which means
here's the barrister. Those were going to have many presentations.
he basically set up an altar and said, my God.
Okay, guys, let's circle back around here.
Israel running around right now.
And we want to look at, maybe look at,
I think when he saw those angels ascending
she
and
went off here.
called it the house of God.
Let's look at question 1. We got about 10 minutes here. I'd like to hear, let's hear from group 1, a spokesman. The question was, assuming Jacob's assuming his role of leadership. What were your thoughts on that, guys?
They pointed to me. Basically, God spoke to him, and my finger, he got as far as Shechem, and he was kind of sitting around twiddling his toes, so his kids get in trouble, and so like God said, wake up, you're not there yet. Get up to where I called you to go. And once God spoke to him to do that, it's sort of like he kind of woke up and said, yeah, you're right, I have to do something. I'm still the guy in charge. And
Yeah.
said, let's go there, although other questions are coming. He didn't say get rid of your idols. He just said, go up there, and he didn't say take your friends with you. He said, you go up there. And so
Yeah.
he said, okay, if I'm going up there, I gotta get moving here, let's go, everybody.
That's very good. And you guys raised a very, very interesting point that really plays into question 2. God, you looked and identified what God specifically said. Go up to Bethel. And, but yet how that plays into how Jacob addressed his tribe in question 2. So let's go to question 2. And question 2 was, this whole thing of allowing other gods within you, under your command, while under your command. What did you guys come up with in regard to that?
Well, I'll try to summarize it. Hope I don't get stoned for this.
It's legal.
It's legal now.
Maybe they just throw some of this on their But anyway, we're not really sure what the definition of a tribe is, because are they all related, or have they started marrying other people from other parts
Yeah.
of the society? And if that's the case, and if they have slaves, then those individuals have perhaps other gods they might have brought with them into that tribe. And also, you see a bumper sticker, stuff happens. So, maybe, and someone suggested, Jacob maybe had some more important things to deal with, than just making sure each person doesn't have a little God on their altar that's different from Yahweh.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yes. Jim, did you have something to add to that?
No, he was our.
Okay, good. You guys are all so, yeah, you got,
See, you said
follow
yes,
the
yes,
rules.
you said was,
Yeah.
and I guess I just.
well, thank you, Dick. Yes. And so the thing, again, very insightful, is that we don't really know what is the makeup of the tribe, and assuming there was no mandate against intermarrying that we can see at this point, so they could actually be bringing other, they'd have to, other people in of different beliefs, but for whatever reason, it wasn't on this. I'm kind of putting words to your thoughts. Is for whatever reason, it wasn't at a high enough priority to quote deal with it. That it was allowed to happen. So, okay. And then question 3. Why do you think Jacob's tribe brought their gods to him, even though he had not directed them to do so? He just said, put them away. I'm interested in what you guys had to say.
Spokesman?
Go ahead, Gene.
Because he was a leader and authority, that they just didn't want to put him away. They wanted to know how to put him away. Like, they could have burned him, buried him, but they want to know exactly what the way is, the proper way to get rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they wanted to make it like a statement that we're putting it away in front of you, because you're the authority.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And that raises an interesting question of the whole priesthood idea. In Catholicism, there is a really a authoritative role of priest, an identifiable role. We are primarily Protestant, primarily evangelical, and in our role, we understand the priesthood of all believers. And there's been some reactionary against that whole idea that maybe not you guys by any means, but I'm saying there was a time in my life when I would think, gee, I can go to God direct. I don't need a, quote, priest. I don't need a go-between. My thinking has changed a bit. I see that there is value. What that is suggesting is kind of a Lone Ranger, my relationship with God, it's me and Jesus kind of thing. And my changing has generally really changed in that we need a community. You guys brought out the idea that Jacob was the recognized authority within that community, and for some reason they felt, I think you're right on, in fact, in saying that they felt the need to go to that authority with these things to express, as a group, as a tribe, our identity and our allegiance to this directive. I would say that's That was the prime motive. And I think there's tremendous value in that. So,
The word accountability.
yeah, there you go. There's a good word. Yeah, yeah. They were putting themselves under authority and saying yes in compliance and going beyond what he had asked them to do. I think that's really fascinating. Yeah, good call. Okay, last question is group 4. Explain why you think Jacob did what he did. He buried the stuff, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jacob was probably surprised that they all brought that jewelry and gold to him. What's he going to do with it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so he thought burial makes sense. Death brings burial.
Huh.
And it's death to the jewelry.
Yeah.
And
Good.
the other thought we had, though, is that even though this was a long time before the time of Christ, he brought it to the tree. He brought it to the cross.
Wow.
And he picked that location. He could have buried it anywhere.
That's cool.
That's the way up with my idea we had. But you guys add to it your thoughts.
That's a very cool idea. Anybody else? He's opening it.
We bury our sins at the foot of the cross. We shed our sins at the foot of the cross. And there, it's taken care of.
Yeah.
It's a fine.
Yeah. And I think we'll just end it right there. That is a high note. Let's give this these guys. Yeah. All righty. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming. Thanks for participating. We'll move on to verse 5 next week.